2024. So much going on. Holy cow. But I decided, you know what? Kind of tired. Had quite the trip last week. Um, Between my book that just came out, which we'll talk about. We went to Dearborn, spoke with folks in the Arab American community. We went to Flint, obviously, for my book. Then we went to Cleveland for my book. Then I went to East Palestine, Ohio, and did a full day there covering the ongoing disaster, which we're going to get to all of that a little bit today. That I said, you know what? I don't really want to prepare anything today. I'm just going to talk to the people. So we're going to do a call show to kind of catch up with you folks. Hopefully, some of you have read some of my books so far. So if you have questions, comments about that, we could definitely talk about that and anything else. But obviously, it was definitely an exciting trip. I'm glad we were able to get in some important topics like the ongoing genocide in Gaza. I interviewed um, I interviewed 3 or 4 Arab Americans in Dearborn to get their personal stories as well as their take and what they're hearing from their community. Because unlike the corporate media, we actually go out to the community to see what's going on and to get a feel for how people feel. And based on my conversations with people and what they're hearing, um, I know there's a lot of marketing going on right now for Kamala Harris, and polls are looking pretty good for her. But if we get the same word salad that we've been getting from her without any actual policy change as far as the U.S.'s blank check in Gaza, I do not believe she's going to win Michigan. I really don't. So we will touch on that. Then, obviously, going to Flint. I was really, this has always been an uphill climb to keep this story in the news, but I'm very, very encouraged right now. Tomorrow will be a week since the book's been out. Uh, Based on what my publisher told me, we've sold a couple thousand copies already, almost 3,000, which is not bad. Not bad at all for the beginning, first week. And that's without any major media attention. I know it's been selling pretty decent online. I know people have had a challenge getting it in bookstores. I guess this is my first foray into any of this, so I'm learning as I go. But I guess it's not automatic. It will be on all bookstores. It's up to a bookstore, depending, if they want to order it. And part of what they look at is sales online. So the fact that it's selling well online is definitely a good sign. But please, please, if you're reading it, even if you didn't order it off of Amazon or Barnes and Noble's website, please leave a review on Amazon or Barnes and Noble what you think, because that's what people look at when they come across a book that they might be interested in. They look at the reviews too. So as many reviews as possible, even if it's on Amazon, which I'm not a huge fan of, um, that's very much appreciated. Um, in Flint, we had about 35, 40 residents show up, and that was on election night because there was a primary election in Flint that night. So I was really encouraged. After the event, a local journalist, Kayla Rubel, interviewed me. A bunch of residents signed up to, get signatures for their book, and I talked to a lot of them. And I was really, really, it's nights like that where you get to talk up close to the communities that you're reporting on behalf of, and to hear how grateful they were and how appreciative they were of everything I've done and we've done, and to hear their ongoing. I mean, one resident showed me rashes she's still getting. So it's not like I'm, just giving my opinion that the water is still bad. I mean, residents are showing me and telling me the water is still bad. Um, but to just get a sense from the community how grateful they are, I also got a sense that there were a lot of people in Flint that were a little worried. They're a little worried as my book was coming out. They were waiting to see if they were going to be named, not just in Flint, in the state of Michigan. Yeah, let's just say there were a lot of worried people. But we're certainly not done. I'm still trying to get on as many shows as I can. So this is going to be a marathon. So far, I've been appreciative. I've gotten on let me get the list here. Do do do. Been able to get on with Breaking Points with Crystal and Sagar. I got on Roland Martin's show. Farron from Ring of Fire YouTube channel did a segment, I believe yesterday, on my book. His studio where he interviews guests got flooded, actually, so he couldn't have me on, but he was nice enough to do a segment. I went on 810 Media in Flint for about an hour or two. That was great. Went on Charlie LaDuff's show, the No BS podcast, which I encourage you to listen to. Charlie is one of the very few journalists in America I respect. He's kind of a rabble rouser, but he had me on, and he has covered Flint quite a bit too. So that was great. The Detroit Metro Times uh, interviewed me and did a piece on it. Deadline Detroit, which is another local Detroit website, they released a short excerpt from my book this morning. So that was great. NBC, the local NBC in Flint, at least came to my book event. They didn't actually report on what was in my book, but at least they came. So they did a short write up. It's about what you could expect from a Flint outlet. Jacobin released a short excerpt from my book. So we're definitely getting some media attention, but obviously I would like to see a lot more. Um, we have reached out to Joe Rogan. We have reached out to the Breakfast Club, which is a really, really popular show, particularly among African American viewers. If I get on there, I think it would be huge. They confirmed they received. I know Nina Turner is friends with Charlemagne, and she's been pushing him. Fingers crossed. I'm going to keep politely harassing people till they have me on, hopefully. So Joe Rogan, The Breakfast Club. I've even reached out to Tim Pool, who, you know, let's say I wouldn't have a beer with, but I'd like to get on any show, even a right-wing show. Reached out to, I am going on Sirius Radio tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. That's the David Webb show. He's a conservative host who I happen to know, so he's having me on. So that should be great, even to get on more conservative channels. I believe I'm going to be on Tom Hartman's show this week. He's another Sirius Radio host, has a YouTube channel, and pretty big audience. So I'm going to be on his show later this week, I believe. But, still waiting for others. So hopefully I could get on Bad Faith with Brianna Joy Gray. Hopefully, Mike from the Humanist Report. I've reached out to the generic David Pakman show email quite a few times. Haven't heard back. So that would be terrific if I can get on Pakman's show. I've reached out to a lot of shows, podcasts. I reached out this morning to Will Menaker from Chapo Trap House, which is a popular podcast. So obviously, Flint is probably not something most of these people have covered extensively over the last few years, but I definitely think there's an angle for anybody to cover, including an election angle. But most importantly, this is the biggest government cover-up of the 21st century, and I'm hoping all channels will have me on. So yeah, I am really, really proud so far. I mean, I'm not stopping here. We want to sell a lot more copies than a few thousand. Not so I could be rich. I'm not going to get rich off of this book for sure. I'm not. But I want the truth out there. I want the truth out there. And I want to hear from you if you've read it so far, if you're reading it as we speak, what you think. So I'm going to take your calls in a little bit. Before I do that, smash the like button, share this live stream so we can get it out to more people. More people that press like, the more people that will see this. Also, a reminder, I haven't been pushing it a lot because I've been pushing my book, but we are funded by you. So this reporting trip I just took, it all costs money. The reporting in Dearborn, the reporting in East Palestine. We went live from both of my book events. Very expensive to be on the ground for me and a cameraman. John's going back for the DNC next week. So if you're not yet a Status Coup member, please smash that. Please become a member. StatusCoup.com/join. Become a member for as low as $5 a month. That's StatusCoup.com/join. Got to get more members if we're going to fund this thing and keep going. And we're going to have to keep going because the shit that's going on in East Palestine, Ohio, which I'll get to later, is really, really top level, DEFCON 1 emergency and disaster. All I want to play just two short parts from my book event. One book event was in Flint. Kayla Rubel is an independent journalist. Yes, the Young Turks should have me on. Let them know. I don't even care if they have me on. Just cover it. If for whatever reason they don't, still got a beef with me, that's fine. But you could cover the revelations in the book. By the way, I did reach out to them. Haven't heard back. So if all of you could reach out to as many outlets as you can and just push them, really makes a difference. So I want to play two clips. First one is with my Flint event. Let's play that.
Yeah, I think the intimidation aspect really comes through a lot in your book, and I think was something that, anytime I've spent listening to these stories or similar stories from Flint residents, that has come through to me, but I often find when I read about it, or I think maybe what outsiders didn't necessarily realize was that level of intimidation that was going on, and it's not, I think in a lot of ways, Flint can be talked about as like a David and Goliath story, residents standing up and demanding, answers about their water and changes. At the same time, though, it's like it's more than that, because like you said, you have someone like Rich Baird sitting with state troopers. I mean, you're coming into a community in the middle of a crisis, and you're coming in with like backup, that to me feels like that just sets a stage that I think your book does really well, which is kind of depicts something maybe differently than people might realize, especially when I think publicly the Snyder administration often put out this sort of idea that the buck stopped with them, they were getting things done, they were sorry, they were doing things to fix Flint, and I think that's so much different than what you guys have experienced here and what we have observed.
Can I just add something?
Yeah, of course.
I think it's really important, and this isn't just about Flint, this is a tactic government uses everywhere, and it's to control the narrative. And Richard Baird's job during this crisis was to control the narrative. I mean, in many cases, they spent more money on sending out bullshit pamphlets to residents than on fixing the problem. But this is not in the book, but since he's here, this is about controlling the narrative. That good-looking gentleman over there, his name's Bruce, he worked as a contractor for many years, an environmental contractor, and he was walking around Flint with one of the busted pipes. So you could look inside the pipe and see this is what your water is coming through. It looked like a disease inside the pipe. And suddenly, Richard Baird wants to meet with him. And Richard Baird asked him, can I take the pipe back to the state, to Lansing? I want to give it to the environmental department. I want to look into this. Did you get that pipe back? No. He wanted to control the narrative. He didn't want this guy walking around town with a damaged Flint pipe. So that a lot of the book is about their, in some cases subtle, in other cases very extreme efforts to control the narrative, because they needed to control the narrative to avoid political liability and, in many cases, criminal liability.
So literally you had the governor's right-hand man, the governor's henchman, the governor's fixer, under false pretenses asking a Flint resident who was going around showing the proof. If you looked inside the pipes, I'm sorry, this sounds crass, it looked like like herpes or something inside those pipes. It was gross. Just blocks of corrosion and heavy metals, and that's what the water was coming through. And in many cases still is coming through. And basically, so that he could get the resident and activists to stop showing the community what your water is coming from, he basically stole the pipe. He said, hey, let's have a meeting. Oh, I want to bring this back. Give it to the lab. It literally sat on his desk. He stole the pipe from this resident. So those are the kind of things. That particular detail wasn't in the book, but there's a lot of similar stuff that is in the book. Let's play also a clip. I was lucky enough that Nina Turner interviewed me in Cleveland. Not the best crowd. We didn't have a lot of people, partly because there was a massive tornado in Cleveland. Yes, there's tornadoes now in Cleveland, so electricity was out for a whole lot of Cleveland. So we got about 10 people. Would have been more without a massive tornado, but it was Nina Turner, as always, was terrific. Let's watch that.
We are very much in trouble in charity starts at home and spreads abroad. I am a firm believer that it has to spread, but it has to start here. And there's not a lot of charity being shown to the residents of Flint. We got Jackson, Mississippi's recent. They're not the only ones. I mean, even in the forward where Aaron talks about over the past, or no, nearly half of the tap water in the United States is contaminated with cancer-causing forever chemicals. None of us are getting out of here alive. You know, none of us
You
can
know,
escape
it's funny
this.
because we spend so much money on this concept of national security
Yes.
from foreign enemies. Well, I got news for you. Your water might be the biggest. I'm not trying to scare anyone,
Yeah.
but I mean, just think about it. We didn't even have an EPA until the 70s.
Right.
And in the industrial boom of America, with a lot of great things, there wasn't much long-term thinking. There is systemic pollution and corporate waste in places like Ohio, the Rust Belt, even the car industry. There was a lot of waste dumped in our
Even the
waterways.
military dumps
Military
as
too,
well.
still being dumped. And the problem in America isn't that we don't have enough regulation. Well, I think we need more regulation. Problem is, our regulators aren't allowed to regulate. Like in 2008, the problem wasn't regulation. The problem was the regulators weren't allowed to regulate the banks. It's the same thing with the EPA. I mean, I've talked to so many EPA whistleblowers. I keep it off the record because they need to eat and
Thank
have a
God
job.
for whistleblowers.
But, I mean, they tell me, you know, they're good people, but the EPA is just bought by corporate America. Same thing for so many special interests. So, I mean, we have so many things on our water. It's worse in some places, better in others. But if we don't, I put it in the book, but in 2020, the New York and Chicago Stock Exchange started trading water as a commodity. And I believe the reason they're doing it is they probably foresee there might at some point be a shortage, not just of actual water, but quality, clean water.
Yeah, and we're fortunate we're one of the Great Lakes communities.
But then look at what happens if this Project 2025 comes.
Yes.
And they get rid of the people who know what's going on and they put political hacks in.
Exactly.
Yep.
They won't even if they're trying, which we won't assume that they are, but even if they're trying.
So that was just one part of that. Both of those live streams are up on the channel. So if you missed it, you can watch it. Yeah, the last thing I'll say, and again, happy to take questions on the book or comments on the book. The book is not, this is not going to be something where I just released it and we, you know, glad it's out there and, you know, hope for the best. I'm going to be actively pushing this. It'll be a marathon. I'm going to be pushing for interviews, you know, weeks later, months later. I'm not stopping my reporting on Flint. I'm actually working on something new. And, you know, most importantly, I want people to take action from what's in the book, not just people who live in Flint, everywhere. So, you know, obviously not everyone has gotten it yet. So I want to give some time for people to read it and digest it. But then I want people to take action. I want people to not contact, harass your elected representatives, whether you're from Michigan and Flint or not, because I hope the book comes across and I hope you get the point. This is not about Flint. It is about Flint, but it's not only about one city. It's about our entire country and it's about toxic government. And if we all don't take it upon ourselves, you know, just like if you're a white person and you got out there and protested after George Floyd, after, you know, as an ally to black people. If you're a white person or a black person and you got out there to Standing Rock as an ally to the indigenous people, if you are, you know, I could go down the list. If you are a Jewish person or a white person, and you're out there protesting as an ally to Palestinians and Arab Americans, you're doing it because you understand we're all interconnected, and even if it doesn't directly affect you, it matters. And I think it matters that this book clearly reveals the biggest government cover up, bar none, of the 21st century. And if we're just going to let that be normalized and not do anything about it, and when I say do anything about it, I'm not just saying call your elected officials. I'm saying get outside their offices. There's an attorney general in Michigan, Dana Nessel, which the book exposes, whether it's intentional or just incompetence, she tanked the criminal investigation. And right now, she is hiding documents from me and from you, the public, I put in freedom of information requests to Attorney General Nessel for specific sets of documents. There were 52 pages. They're about a massive RICO case, financial racketeering case, that the prosecutors she fired were about to charge. It would have exposed the entire financial scam that poisoned Flint. It implicates high-level politicians as well as big-level Wall Street banks. Her office at first told me they didn't have the documents. I got back to them saying, I know you have the documents. So are you sure you want to tell me you don't have the documents? I kind of alluded to potentially suing them. And all of a sudden they got back to me, oh, we'll look again. And then they all of a sudden magically found the documents, but they still won't give them to me. And I've consulted some lawyers. Unfortunately, the lawyers tell me legally they can withhold it. So the only way that we're going to get them out is a pressure campaign. And these are not just like boring, dry These documents, I believe, are the ball game. These documents would show that this was not, as the media has reported it, some tragedy born from trying to save money. This was a massive financial scam that used poor people in Flint as guinea pigs. And we need to get the truth out there. And I'll do it. And I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep pounding the pavement. For Flint, East Palestine, I have a lot of people reaching out to me about a lot of places. Unfortunately, I'm only one person. Unfortunately, we don't have funding. I would love to be able to hire many other reporters to dig into a whole lot of other sacrifice zones. I need you, the people, to fund it. Before I take calls, I want to start promoting now, if you have it, Colin. Next week, I believe we are going to be the place for the Democratic National Convention. I don't think anyone, any show, is going to have the lineup that we have, both on the ground as well as in studio. We are going to be having a live marathon show for 3 days, starting Tuesday, August 20th through August 22nd. We are going to have, these are just a few names. We're going to have Cornel West. We're going to have Jill Stein, Crystal Ball, Nina Turner, Ryan Grimm, Winona LaDuke, Dr. Richard Wolf. We are going to have Lee Camp, Stephen Donziger. We're going to have, hold on. Do I have the list in front of me? Why did I get rid of the list? Hold on, Colin, do you have the list? I want to promote this right. 1 second.
Yeah. Well, here I can just grab the. Let me just grab the images here.
All right, I got it. We're gonna have Winona LaDuke, Stephen Donziger, Ryan Grimm, Crystal Ball, Nina Turner, W. Mondale Robinson, who is the founder of Black Male Voter Project, Dr. Richard Wolf, Jody Evans, who's the co-founder of Code Pink, Greg Palast, who is a great investigative journalist, Helen Hong, who is an actress and comedian. She was in HBO's Silicon Valley. Ron Placone, who we all know and love. Lee Camp, Ben Burgess, who's a Jacobin columnist. Jasmine Banks, executive director of UN Koch My Campus, founder, Generation Common Good. Alan Minsky, executive director, Progressive Democrats of America. Joseph Giarviz, executive director, Our Revolution. Jill Stein, Cornel West, Jody Evans, co-founder of Code Pink, Marianne Williamson, former presidential candidate, as you know, Erica Andiola, immigration's rights activist, a dreamer. This is going to be heavy duty. I'm trying to get Michael Moore. Not easy, but I'm trying. So we are going to have a 3-day marathon, and that's me in the studio. That's me in the studio with these guests. John is going to be on the ground covering protests and whatever other fuckery is happening. So we're going to be going live with our guests and bringing John in as stuff happens. Who knows? I mean, it's going to be, I don't know what's going to happen. There's going to be ceasefire protesters there. There's going to be pro-Palestinian protesters there. There's going to be healthcare protesters, climate protesters, you name it. I forgot Shama Sawant is going to be on with us too. We're trying to get other people too. So I don't think anyone is going to have this lineup of guests for 3 days. We're going to start at 6 o'clock Eastern time and go till 8 o'clock. So 2 hours each night. We might go longer depending what's happening. You know, John Farina, he got those images on January 6th of the cop's head rammed into the door. You know he's a rough rider. You know he's always where the action is. So we definitely expect, um, you know, things to happen. So we'll be on the ground and in studio covering this. One of the things I'm really hoping for this, we're going to use this also as a marathon to sign up more paying members. We got to grow, folks. We have to grow. I don't have a money tree like the federal government does, and I'm not printing money out of my anus. So we need to sign up more members, and I'm hoping that this all-star lineup of guests, where we could cover everything from climate to healthcare to genocide to war to you name it, will help us get there. So please, 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 if you can, if you haven't signed up yet, statuscoup.com/join, statuscoup.com/join. Like I said, trying to get Michael Moore, trying to get some others too. But that's the lineup so far. And we'll be promoting this as we go. But put it in your calendar next Tuesday through Thursday, 6 o'clock Eastern time. That's 6 o'clock Eastern time to 8 o'clock. We'll be live for a marathon, calling it the People's Mic. And we're not going to sit here and, feed bullshit to you about, oh, democracy is at stake and yay, cheering Kamala. You vote for whoever you want. But we're going to tell the truth, and we're going to cover all the things and all the issues that they're going to cover up inside that building. And they're going to pretend isn't happening, including massive income inequality, the climate inferno, the genocide in Gaza, homelessness on the rise in America. The economy is not great, and all the other things that you know and love Status Coup for. So, yeah, that's what's going on. I'm going to show one more clip, and then we'll start taking your calls. Colin, can you show the clip? I got to tell you, I've covered a lot of shit. I've covered a lot of contamination. The event we did in East Palestine really, sometimes you know something is really major and you know something is a real disaster, but you think it's like here, and then you report something or you find something out and you realize, holy shit, this could be historic. And we did a live, whatever you want to call it, town hall on Thursday. And we were able to, Colin, thanks to him and making the technology work, we were able to bring in a toxicologist with 55 years of experience to talk to us, to answer questions, and to talk to residents. And I think I learned from that, and I hope you learned that this is not, it's called the East Palestine disaster. And of course, East Palestine is ground zero. I think that we need to broaden this out. And I think that's what I'm figuring out now. This now is possibly the worst chemical disaster in history. And that's not my words. That is a leading toxicologist with 55 years of experience who came out of retirement because he thinks this is the worst chemical disaster in history. Colin, let's play some of our event with residents.
Calculated how much was involved, and I looked up rail car content, and most of the rail cars carry around 200,000 pounds of material. Some of them are 180,000, some of them are 220,000. But when you multiply that across the cars that were involved in both the burning and impingement, there were over 5 million pounds of materials in cars that Norfolk Southern said burned. There was another 3 million pounds in the cars that they said were impinged. So there was a total of over 8.5 million pounds of chemicals that were spilled, dislodged, and combusted there in East Palestine. The toxicity of those chemicals, hundreds of chemicals now that were released, the toxicity would have been simultaneous. You wouldn't just have been inhaling vinyl chloride, and so then you know that you got to worry about lung cancer. You wouldn't have been inhaling benzene, so you know about blood cancer. You would have been inhaling these vapors and chemical particles all at one time. And they would come into your body, and I haven't totaled up the number or I've forgotten it, But there are a lot of those chemicals that are calculated, that I calculated what are the combustion products that produce dioxins. It's not just one source. As mentioned here, it isn't just dioxins from vinyl chloride being burned. That's true. But there are dozens and dozens of other chemicals that were burned that produce dioxins.
I really encourage you. You got to watch this whole thing. We actually just posted earlier this morning, just the part with the toxicologist, because there was another part where I was interviewing residents. But this toxicologist, through hundreds of hours of analysis, he has found as many as 120. Let me repeat, 120 cancerous chemicals that were likely created from this explosion, from this unnecessary chemical detonation. And I explained to him and listed the symptoms the residents are having that I have come across. And he said a lot of the symptoms people are having, which include women losing hair, women unusual menstrual cycles, strokes, seizures, cancers, body tingling, memory loss, early dementia, is from not only the cancerous chemicals, but non-cancerous and still harmful chemicals. So definitely, you got to watch that whole thing. By the way, got a couple new members, so you're answering the call. Donald, member for 8 months. Thank you, Donald. Welcome, new member Ratzo, just became a YouTube member. Welcome, new member Kevin, just became a YouTube member. You can sign up any way you want, but we prefer, if you can, sign up to our website. So that's statuscoup.com/join, statuscoup.com/join. But if you want to be a YouTube member, that's fine. The only problem is when you sign up from YouTube, we don't get access to your email. So we want your email so we can contact you, for live updates and etc. And I'm about to switch to taking calls. I just want to answer this person because I think it's important. Did I miss it already? Present said, Jordan's vote for whoever you want is a wasted opportunity. So I said to Presence, because, I get it either way. Some people aren't happy when I share what I'm personally going to do. And then some people want me to tell them who to vote for, endorse a candidate. I've said consistently, as long as I've been a journalist, it's not for me to tell you who to vote for. It's one thing if you're just, an opinion host and commentator and you want to give your opinion. It's another thing if you are a journalist who investigates things. I don't really think it's appropriate for a journalist to be endorsing candidates or telling people who to vote for. I don't think, I make my political beliefs pretty open. It's not a secret. But there's a difference in telling you what I think and what I personally would do versus, you need to do this or endorsing a candidate. So you might think it's very important, to hold your nose and vote for Kamala or to vote third party or whatever you think. But that's more of an activist host or a commentator. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't really think it's for me to tell you what to do. So sorry if you don't like that, but that's what I think. And keep those super chats coming. Keep signing up as a member. I'll read your super chats and shout out new members as we go. All right. Let me, Colin, I don't know how to show you the screen. Oh, actually, share screen. Let me do ready. Connect. And you. I think I gave you what you need. So call in. We could talk about whatever you want. My book, East Palestine. I also did interviews in Dearborn, which is the highest populated Arab American city in America, and I believe is going to be critical in terms of winning Michigan and winning the election, because Michigan is in my view, just as critical as Pennsylvania, if Harris or Trump is going to win. So could talk about that. We haven't released every interview from there. Got a couple, one or two more that we're going to release, but kind of an open mic, could answer whatever you want. So definitely call in. There's the number on the screen. I am in a good mood, so I'm not trying to, if you're looking for a fight, go elsewhere. But would love to talk about anything. So feel free to call in. I see our first caller from Oakland, California.
My name is Presence. I'm the one who told Jordan he should be advocating for
Oh, there
candidates.
you are. There you are. Tell me, what should I do here?
Hello?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. I'm sorry, I don't know who I'm on with or if I'm live.
Yeah, you're live. Can you hear me?
I can. Hey, Jordan, it's great to talk to you. I admire you. I'm going to get your book. I've been a member for a long time. I just don't quite understand you not being willing to advocate for certain candidates. If Bernie Sanders was running for president, and he was, and I know you were on when he was, if Nina Turner ran for president, you might advocate for them. You might say, yeah, you should vote for this person. And even if you don't want to do that, I think talking voting strategy is super important. I'm on comment boards a lot. I'm kind of an armchair activist, and I see a lot of people who don't understand the Electoral College, don't get third parties, and most importantly, they don't understand what the real solution is to the duopoly. It's not the Green Party.
Well, a couple things. Number one, I don't really think it's as relevant me boostering for whether it's a third party or whomever as what do I cover and who do I elevate. There's, as far as I know, there's no channel that has had more third party candidates on than I have. I've interviewed Cornel West and Jill Stein more than anyone that I'm aware of. I interviewed Matthew Ho before he was interviewed elsewhere. I've interviewed a bunch of third party candidates from libertarians to Green Party to independents. So to me, that is covering and discussing strategy. That is showing people that there are other choices out there. And I think it's kind of the key is in the word. You said advocate for. Now, I'm not an old school dinosaur who thinks a journalist can't share his opinion. I do share my opinions, but there's a difference between as a journalist, and I am a journalist, there's a difference in sharing your opinion and advocating and endorsing. When you're getting into advocating and endorsing, you are directly getting into, political organizing, political activism. And there needs to be a line between that and journalism. Secondly, just for legal reasons, we are actually transitioning now to becoming a nonprofit. I announced that a while ago. We're still in the process. And legally, as a nonprofit, I cannot endorse a candidate. We cannot endorse candidates. You can't do that as a nonprofit. So even though that's not the reason I don't do it, technically I cannot once we are a nonprofit. But I just don't think, I think I let the journalism and what I cover and what I cover tell the story. I don't need to be advocating or telling people how to vote, because I think that's kind of, number one, I don't think you should be making your decisions on who to vote for from YouTube hosts. But number two, I think it's more important. I do agree with you on talking strategies, but to me, the most important strategy is not electoral. The most important strategy is outside of electoral, and that's why I have been pushing very hard for the last couple months and probably the last year or two that we need to not only focus on electoral, but we need to be getting involved with these union organizing, worker strikes, tenants unions, and economic organizing. But the bottom line is I don't feel right or think it's appropriate for, if you're a journalist, to be advocating. I mean, I don't think it was a secret when I was covering Bernie that I was a Bernie guy. I didn't hide that, but I wasn't going around, saying you must vote for Bernie. Not that anyone needed me to. So to me, that's just the difference. But I do understand what you're saying as far as discussing, voting strategies and this and that. I do think we do that here. It's just not me heavy-handedly telling you what to do. By having Jill Stein on and Cornel West on and Shama Sawant on and others, I think we're providing that strategy without me force feeding it, if that makes sense.
Okay, I think there's a middle ground here.
Okay.
So saying you need to vote for this person, or I'm implying that somehow you're dumb or you're wrong. No. But enthusiastically supporting a candidate like you kind of did with Bernie, that's wonderful.
Okay. I got you.
Further, I think you should use your power to the max because we're in some dire times here.
That I agree with, for sure. That I agree with. I would love to know what power you think. I wish I had more power. But
you have a voice. People listen to you. You're a factor. You're a factor in their decision making.
No, I know, but you don't think having independents on, Green Party candidate on, Shama Sawant on, I've had libertarian. I don't know what more I could do other than formally endorsing someone.
Okay. So let's separate our issues here.
Mm-hmm.
I get all that, and I totally agree. And I've been watching your channel since the beginning, literally. And
awesome.
And the fact that you have all these people on, I watch you all the time because yes, absolutely, you're awesome at it. But I'm just saying, on this particular issue, I don't think it's a problem at all to advocate, relatively strongly for any particular candidate. Now, I know a lot of people don't like Harris. Okay, so I've been going around and I debate people all the time. I just don't think it makes any sense to vote green in swing states.
Okay.
I think you should hold your nose and vote Harris. I understand all the downsides. I've been debating this for decades. But I want to lay out something here real quick. Do you think this country would be different if we had nominated Ted Kennedy over Jimmy Carter? Do you think this country would be different if we had somehow beat Ronald Reagan? Do you think this country would be markedly different if we had elected Jerry Brown rather than Bill Clinton? Do you think it would be different if we had elected Al Gore or Howard Dean or John Kerry or Bernie Sanders? See, the problem we're facing is conservatism. And we know that Republicans are conservatives. And we know that conservative ideology has partly taken over the Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
That's our real major problem. The way to counter that is to somehow get progressives or at least real liberals in power.
Right. Well, I think I want to answer because I think that's a great point. And I think personally, it's 100% the country would have been better with Ted Kennedy rather than Jimmy Carter. The country would have been better with whomever you said rather than Ronald Reagan. Country would have been better, of course, Jerry Brown over Bill Clinton. We can go certainly Al Gore over George W. Bush. So I don't really think it's about I do believe the country would be better with Harris versus Trump. I do believe that. I think there's a difference though between what will be better, because then you get into the lesser of two evils. So do I think there would be less damage to vulnerable groups like women, LGBTQ, Black, Brown, Indigenous under Harris than Trump? Yes, I do. But that doesn't mean there's not going to be damage under the existing neoliberal order. So I think it's less about. I think it's less about would it be better a relative term. Yes, I mean you're just disingenuous if you say it would be worse under Harris than Trump. But I think where the gap and the difference is in strategy and just where people have gotten to after 40 years of this neoliberalism is, at the end of the day, it's not better enough because the Gilded Age that has happened is happening under either one, no matter what bullshit phrases or marketing or branding they sell you during the election. It's not going to, it's still going to be a corrupt government, whether it's under Trump or Harris. There's still going to be servants of Wall Street. So I think that's where people who are saying, I'm done voting for Democrats, or I'm done voting, or I'm only voting third party. I do understand your mentality, like it will still be better, but better compared to Trump, that doesn't really help the people having to work two jobs because we have a corrupt economic system. That doesn't really help. I mean, homelessness is up dramatically. Does anyone think Kamala Harris is really going to do anything to put a price controls on rent? No. Does anybody think Kamala Harris is going to be adversarial to Wall Street or big oil during a climate inferno? No. There's no record of that. There's no, so I think we should be honest that Trump would be worse, but I think where the rubber meets the road is people are just, they want structural change and they know they're not getting that from Kamala Harris. But I also think you're not getting structural change from any federal election, period. If Bernie was president today, he would fight the fight. But I don't really know if we'd have Medicare for all because both parties would fight them in Congress. Even if he did an executive action, this Supreme Court, you don't think that's going to the Supreme Court and getting overturned? I mean, we can go down the list of many good things. A progressive that doesn't mean it wouldn't be way better to have an actual progressive fighter in the White House. But I'm talking about structural change. I'm talking about the deluge of money in politics. I'm talking about the lobbyists. I'm talking about corruption. I'm talking about real estate developers capturing our government and gentrification, pushing people out. That structural change, I don't believe is coming from any federal election. I don't care if it's Congress. I don't care if it's Senate. I don't care if it's the White House, because the system is too corrupt. That's why I have been advocating. It's not to say don't vote. It's not to say don't focus on elections at all. It's not an either or. But I believe if we're ever going to unwind the corruption and the neoliberal system, it's got to come from us organizing outside of the electoral system. Labor, I think what the UAW doing is great. Amazon, worker strikes, tenants unions, mutual aid. So it's not an either or, but I think listen, I've been covering this now for 20 years. It's that same record spinning over and over. Sure, Al Gore as president would have been better than George W. Bush. We certainly wouldn't have had Iraq. I'm pretty sure we wouldn't have had 9/11 because he would have read the memos being sent to him, bin Laden about to strike using airplanes. However, I don't think it would have been any different in terms of massive income inequality, the top 1% hoarding all the money. So that's where the rubber meets the road, if that makes sense.
Sure. So we're in a real pickle here, and we have slid backwards, yes, in the way that you're describing. Now, the way to get out of the hole is not to let Republicans win. Electing Harris Walz, for example, is not going to dig us all the way out of the hole. But at some point, you got to stop the bleeding.
Right, but what happens? What happens under that? Okay, you quote unquote stop the bleeding. Okay, and then I think we agree, Harris Walz. Maybe you'll get some crumbs, but you're not getting any structural change. You're not getting health care for all. You're not getting
big crumbs.
Yeah, you're not
big
getting
crumbs. Biden got us $6 trillion in spending. Even though I agree with what you're saying, it's not just crumbs. It's big stuff, major stuff with the Democrats, and it's big stuff, major stuff that happens badly with the Republicans, like the Supreme Court. So let's.
I don't know about
right.
I don't know about big crumbs. I have to disagree there. I mean, the infrastructure deal. If you
the
look
American
at,
Rescue Plan and the Inflation Reduction Act and the CHIPS Act and the infrastructure bill, that's big league shit.
COVID relief bill, I agree. There was a lot of great stuff in that. Everything else you just mentioned, number one, the infrastructure deal, the American Prospect has done great reporting on this, was literally a privatization bill. It basically privatized a lot of our public systems. So did it build some roads? Yes.
But it Yes, and that's jobs, and that's people's lives and wages, and that's what we want. So it's
Nah,
not.
but
It wasn't.
yes,
It wasn't
if
all
you,
good. Yes,
no, but if you look into it,
but
a lot of it is privatization. Then if you look
well,
in, if you look into what were the uh, IRA, there are some good things in there, but frankly, I mean, we needed tax credits for solar and wind and renewable. That would have been nice 15 years ago. That's showing up to a massive block fire with a super soaker. Tax credits and wind and I'm telling you what people in climate groups tell me. I mean, the stuff that was billed as historic in it's historic compared to, I mean, really nothing happening, serious happening on climate. But I mean, if you're around the country, you know that it's historic heat all over the world and America. You're not going to reverse the irreversible damage and get to the measurements the United Nations and all the experts say we need to cool the earth with tax credits for corporations for wind, solar. We don't have the time, the runway for that. Were there good things in the Inflation Reduction Act? Sure, but when you're talking about massive, I mean, it's not just all the people that die without health care. I mean, most people cannot afford their health care, even if they have insurance now. There was nothing really towards that. He ran on a public option, forgot that right away. He ran on raising the minimum wage, forgot, that was abandoned. He's double drilling on
yeah,
public lands. So I'm not saying he's done nothing positive. I think the child tax credit was great. The problem is they set it to expire in a year, and then he didn't have the spine to fight Manchin or Sinema. If he would, let me tell you something. If Joe Biden would have gotten the child tax credit permanently, I would, even though I think he's pretty deplorable, I would have been saying, you know what? Between his NLRB and that, he's not my cup of tea, but it's very clear him versus Trump. He didn't.
so
Kamala
it
Harris.
sounds like you're saying we were two dumb Democrats away from getting what you wanted.
Yeah, but
So that's pretty close.
It's not two dumb Democrats. I'm sure you've heard of the rotating villains. I think there's always.
I have. I'm not so sure that's true though. In that case,
I'm pretty sure it's true. I think there were other people,
well,
other senators.
maybe.
I mean, there were 8 senators that when Bernie pushed an amendment for the $15 minimum wage, 8 Democrats voted it down. So it's not just Sinema and Manchin. I think those were the two that took the heat. But there were others that didn't want that because their donors don't want. I mean, we could go back and forth all day. I will give you this. Personally, do I think Kamala Harris would be better than Trump? I do. But I don't think Kamala Harris would be a good president. I don't think she cares about working people. I think she cares about making history, getting power. Would she like to do nice things for the country? I'm sure in her heart she would, but she's part of the system. I don't think we're going to get the structural change we need. If you as a voter make the decision, I agree with you, but I'm going to do whatever I have to stop Trump, I cannot argue with you, and I cannot, that's a valid thing. My point to you is we cannot indefinitely keep going through this mental paradigm of the lesser of two evils, because even if you do that with Kamala Harris, that it's going to be Kamala Harris in 4 years versus J.D. Vance. What if Kamala Harris, as President Harris, is supporting another genocide, or hasn't done anything serious on climate, and it's her first J.D. Vance or another Ron DeSantis, Tom Cotton? Maybe they're less rhetorically insane as Trump. Maybe they're less bombastic, but on policy, they're just as bad. So do you just continue infinity and beyond? No. Do you just continue infinity and beyond saying, well, I guess I'll vote for slowly being poisoned rather than getting shot in the head? That's where I think people are
No.
Go ahead.
No, you don't do that. That's why we have to have a conversation about long-term strategy.
Okay.
Number one, you don't let the GOP get elected in the short term. Number two, dumbbell Democratic primary voters who thought Pete Buttigieg was better than Bernie Sanders or Amy Klobuchar or whatever other loser they had there need to have their head examined. You're fools. But you got to get progressives in during the primaries. And then I understand that's that has flaws too. So the solution is a new third party. And the two most successful third party attempts, we can go back to, well, let's not do that. It was Ross Perot nationally, who had the most success with the Reform Party, and it was Jesse Ventura in Minnesota who actually split the duopoly in half and won. And so a successful third party is going to be one that has the right platform, not Ross Perot's platform, and not even Jesse Ventura's platform, but you can see the possibility there. So the platform for a new Reform Party is anti-corruption, it's pro-environment, it's pro-worker, it's fair trade, and you can line up an agenda like that hits a bunch of voters the right way, and you can get 33 or more percent. You can do that in states, and you can do that, you can probably get enough states to win the presidency. But you gotta set up a third party now, and it has to be viable, it has to be done right, you have to be ruthless. And that is the real way forward, not the Green Party.
All right. Listen,
even though I vote Green.
I want to continue this, but I have a bunch of people on hold. Email me because I think I want to have you on. So email me, subject line, we debated strategy, and maybe I'll bring you on the show on camera. That sound good?
Hey, you the man, Jordan.
Thanks, Ben. All right. Next up, Tony.
Hello.
Hey there.
Hey. So first of all, I shop for books on thriftbooks.com, and I did leave a review of the book on there, just so you know.
Bite the bullet, and leave a review on Amazon too, because the more people that leave reviews on Amazon, the more people will buy it. It's just how it is. But go on.
I'll do that then.
What'd you think? You could tell me the truth.
People need to read this book, because this really is the worst cover-up I've ever heard of.
I did not pay him to say that, but I agree. I really think if you read the book and are not multitasking and you really, really focus on everything in front of you, I don't know of anything this fucked up. It's one thing to, Watergate and try to cover up that you broke into an office or whatever. It's another thing to literally be trying to deprive the people you represent politically, just stop them from knowing that they are being poisoned in real time. And that's what this book exposes, to who, what, when, why of that. But go on.
So I really enjoyed the Nate Turner interview and the Caleb Boone interview last week. When is the next interview with Crystal Ball?
I will be in DC for that event on September 8th. So we got a little ways to go.
Awesome.
I'm trying. I mean, it ain't easy, man. I had an event lined up with Susan Sarandon. Unfortunately, her film schedule, she got pulled away, so I had to cancel that. I've been trying to get Michael Moore for a long time. He's hit or miss. So I'm going to keep trying, but I'm not stopping at, just these few events. I'd like to do events elsewhere in the country. So yeah, I mean, a book event could happen in September. I could have a book event in January. It doesn't matter that even if time passes, it's not like the cover up goes away. It's still ongoing. So, and if there's other people, people would suggest me trying to do it with, feel free to let me know. I mean, I might ask Steven Donziger in New York, might ask some others too. So there will be other events. I also want to do kind of like a book club thing with Status Coup members. So maybe one time, instead of a members call, it would still be a members call, but doing like a book club and going through the book and, answering your questions, maybe telling you some stuff that wasn't in the book. So yeah, that's it. But right now, my main focus is on trying to get on as many shows as I can. Right now, I'm not naming names and shaming anyone because I'm trying to get on there. But let's just say, certain people, I don't care if it's a presidential election year. I don't care if you want to cover other bullshit. All I'm asking for is a minimum of 10 minutes to come on your show. I'll even take less. Or if you don't want to have me on for whatever reason, just cover the book. I could send you plenty of graphics and information. TYT, if they don't want to have me on, there is zero reason There's no excuse for any independent outlet ignoring this, because this is a massive story. It's still a disaster. And you're not doing it for me to help me sell a book. You're doing it because it's an important story and on behalf of the people of Flint. That's what this is about. So hopefully we'll get on other shows too. But I'm for less than a week, I'm pretty happy with the shows I have gotten on. Like I said, I'm going on Sirius Radio tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'm going on with Tom Hartman, I believe, another day this week. Um,
I will have to watch that.
David Packman, if he's listening, or if you watch his show, I'd love to, he's got a big audience. I think a lot of his audience is probably a little more liberal than us, but that doesn't matter. This is not about politics.
Yeah.
And I would really appreciate being able to get on, because I think with this story, really, it just takes one or two breakthroughs, getting in front of a big ass audience that has no clue about most of this. And then it kind of takes off from there. So I'm hoping, we could get lucky with a few interviews.
Yeah. You started covering politics during the Obama era, and I started paying attention then. I'm wondering how you compare that to Kamala Harris's campaign right now, and what the culture is like.
It's so funny you said that, because I literally said, I think I said to John when we were on the road, that this literally is giving me 2008 vibes.
Yeah.
To be clear, not because they're both black, but because it's just a lot of fluff, a lot of feel good fluff, if that makes sense. Kamala, she's definitely not as inspiring or as she's not as inspiring or gifted as a speaker, but there's just a lot of that Obama feel good, like, heal the world, and Obama was hope and change. She's pushing freedom. I mean, all of these phrases and words are just consultants and poll tested, and they kind of come out of a lab and they tell the candidates what to push. But they're both black. Yes, they are black. Sorry, Trump. She's black. But I just get 2008 vibes. I think there's very little like underneath the hood. If you use a car analogy, there's a reason she currently doesn't have any policy on our website. I know they say they're going to release some policy this year, but I mean, all you got to do is just look at her record. I mean, she reversed herself on pretty much everything very quickly, including Medicare for all. I think personally, to me, the most dangerous types of politicians are ones who don't firmly believe in anything. And I don't think she firmly believes in anything. I think maybe in her heart, she maybe believes in more progressive things, but she is not willing to, as a politician, fight for those things. And she has shown that through who she takes money from, and what she has done when she runs, and how quickly she has reversed herself on things. So I get major '08 vibes, particularly look at the crowds. I mean, to her credit, she's getting massive crowds. I think a lot of that has less to do with her and more about just she could speak. And she is, obviously people don't want Trump again. But I see a lot of Obama, kind of this feel good vibes thing, and hope and change, and a new type of politics Obama pushed. And she's pushing freedom and, saving democracy. But when you look underneath it, it's all the same shit. It's just they're going to get in, they're going to serve Wall Street, they're going to serve special interests. They're going to say pox on the Republicans. They're horrible people. And here's a couple crumbs, and here's some excuses why we can't do bigger things. So to me, it has a lot of Obama vibes. I also feel there's a little Hillary vibe from 2016, because up until this point, I could be made wrong. Up until this point, she has no economic policy, and Hillary didn't have an economic message. Hillary's message was stronger together. Well, now we're getting freedom, or don't. Oh, Hillary was stronger together. Kamala is freedom and, not going backwards. Again, that's not a message, particularly when the top issue right now is inflation of the economy. She could come out with a strong economic proposal. She could come out and say, I'm going to push a $20 minimum wage, and to hell with the parliamentarian. If you give me a Democratic House and Senate, I will sign a $20 minimum wage. If she said that and promised it and said, I will not even consult with a parliamentarian, I would be more inclined, even though I'm not a fan of her, to consider her. But she's not pushing for any of that. And I also think at the end of the day, it's very clear she's not going to separate from Biden's genocide policy. It's very clear. I don't think this genocide's ending by the election. And I don't see any evidence that she's going to. I mean, a Dearborn person said it best, and we have more interviews to post from Dearborn. More sympathy doesn't stop the killings. So she could be very sympathetic. It ain't stopping killings. It's not stopping that. If you saw on Twitter, that Palestinian mother crying, horrified, looking at her kid burning in a fire from Israeli missiles. So I know that's long-winded, but that's basically my thoughts.
Yeah, and also back then, Republicans were launching the dumbest attacks against Obama, just like now. And I think they're going to lose. But like you say, we're not going to get much in return. It's very similar to Obama. And I would just say Kamala Harris is Selena Meyer from the great sitcom Veep. That is who she is.
Yep.
She only cares about policy as it changes those around her.
Yeah, I agree. So again, that doesn't mean, I'm going to be honest with people. Do I think Trump would be worse? I do. But I can't lie to people and think I think Kamala is going to do anything to dramatically change your life. I mean, I respect our last caller, but when he's saying Biden gave big crumbs, I mean, I just disagree. I don't agree with that. I think there's some good things Biden did, but overall, the economy is the economy. The trajectory is the trajectory. The income inequality and that chart with wages versus productivity hasn't budged much. So, that's the deal. All right, I got to take the next person. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Jordan.
No problem. Chrissy from East Palestine. You there? Can you hear me, Chrissy?
Shit.
I hear you.
Hey.
Hey there.
Now, keeping. Sorry. The politics real quick and real briefly.
Sure.
Ration disaster has been on his desk for how long? Nothing. 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 Sherrod Brown did nothing. I am fed up. They all suck. All suck. I'm not political debate listening about Kamala and JD. They all suck. They all do not give a shit. Country. They give a shit about lining their pockets.
Amen.
Okay, we have been in East Palestine and Flint. The administrations it's been in since Flint started. Down. Doesn't matter if you're red or blue. To them. You're nothing to them. So to fix our government, totally eliminate it and build it from the ground up. They all suck. It's pick your poison and thank you. Thank you for seeing people because it's corrupt enough. And if you stand behind one corrupted soul, that none of them went Palestine, come stay. Believe 100%. And believe me, I used to be very political to just think that I had to brag that person up and brag them up. And I'm telling you what, they all.
I agree.
I went through it. I see who was in office.
I will have you back on camera maybe next week, just because your phone keeps cutting out. So I don't want to keep going with it. But to answer her message, because her message is frankly what I believe. And again, it's not to say don't vote. It's not to say voting doesn't matter. But I think what she's trying to get across is I think it's a delusion that you're getting anything significantly different, whether it's Kamala Harris or Trump. Now, on certain things, one might be worse. But the bottom line is Flint was poisoned and remains poisoned under Democrats and Republicans. East Palestine was poisoned under a Democratic president, Republican governor. And I promise you, if Trump becomes president, it's going to remain poisoned because it's not blue versus red. The color that matters is green. The color that matters is green. And, you might in your mind think, well, I agree, but, it's better to take the less damage, take the candidates that's going to hurt you more. Well, hurt you less. In a relationship, are you going to take the partner who beats you less? They're still beating you. I don't know if that's the right analogy, but I think you get my point. So if you're a poisoned person in East Palestine, I don't really think you want to hear, Kamala will be better when they haven't done shit for them. And they're literally, the EPA under Biden and Kamala are lying that it's all fine. Meanwhile, they are slowly dying in East Palestine. I was just there. People are losing their hair, rashes. Women are having reproductive issues, menstrual cycle issues. People are getting cancer, strokes, seizures. So to a person who is on the receiving end of a chemical disaster, they don't really want to hear, well, hold your nose because Kamala will be better. Well, not for them. Neither are doing anything for them. Let me take the next one. Somebody wants to talk about Tim Walz.
Hello?
Hey there.
What's up, Jordan?
Hey.
Let's see. Yeah, so I wanted to talk to you about, well, first I wanted to start off by talking about how I first discovered you. I actually discovered you from Farron Cousins.
Oh, nice.
Who I discovered actually from David Pakman because he was a guest host on one of his shows.
Okay.
And ever since I listened to you and you talked about Flint and what's going on with East Palestine, I have never gone back to David Pakman.
Well, I'm trying to get on his show, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to shit on him. But let's just say I wish he covered Flint and important things a lot more. Because I think a lot of shows like Pac-Man, it's Trump, 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 Republicans, Republicans, and they do that for a variety of reasons. But at the end of the day, Republicans and Trump, you are delusional if you think Republicans and Trump are the only problem in this country.
Yeah, I couldn't stand the whole messaging about, oh yeah, Republicans are bad, or look at what Marjorie Taylor Greene said, or look at what Jim Jordan said and everything. And it's like, okay, I get it, but it's all this one-sided BS. And whenever I discovered Farron Cousins, I was introduced to that America's Lawyer show, and they said, oh yeah, there's problems on both sides. And then one time he had you on, and then you really exposed like both parties in a way that I've never seen before. And since then, it was just like, Pac-Man's one-sided. I don't want to listen to his stuff anymore. Like I get, often I get my news from you. So, I'm thankful that there are outlets out there that expose the corruption, and they don't just go after one party just to attract a base, like a generic base.
Listen, it's a lot more profitable. If I would have just been a Trump Russia channel, I'd probably be well over 1 million subscribers by now, because that's people are kind of programmed to be in tribal camps when it comes to politics, and there's a lot of money to be had from beating the hell out of Trump for ever and ever. And there's a lot of money to be had the other way and beating the hell out of Democrats. and Obama or Hillary or Biden. But the truth is, both of these people are screwing viewers. So I think it's, it's not to say
Mm-hmm.
don't cover Trump. I do sometimes. It's not to say don't cover either side, but that's why, a perfect example. I had a meeting once with, recently, actually, within the last few months, I had a meeting with a kind of, a guy pretty high up there with Sirius Radio. And I basically said to him, I mean, your progressive channel sucks. I mean, it's basically like MSNBC. It's like MSNBC minor leagues. And like, I think I would do better than anyone you have on your quote unquote progress channel, because it's all like, team Democrats. And I would, try me out for an hour a week. And I told him, like, I'm not either team. I will expose corruption, and I will expose, Flint and all these other stories we cover. And he basically told me, yeah, that doesn't work. You gotta pick a side. That's where the audience is. So that's where we're at. You gotta either be like
Yeah.
team blue or team red. There's very few like in actual independents or those who are allowed major media microphones with massive audiences that follow the money, point out, that they're all bought off, or cover the things we cover. So, it's unfortunate, but yeah, let's just say, that's why it's so important. Like, if I could get on a David Pakman or whatever, like, I truly believe most people actually care about the Flint type stories and the East Palestine type stories and all the things we cover. They just really don't know what's happening because algorithms feed them bullshit. Algorithms feed them, 25 videos from a day on Trump or 25 videos a day on Kamala or whatever. YouTube is not feeding them videos on Flint, the few videos that exist. So that's why it's really helpful and I think important when people with a big platform, try and elevate, this, not just me, but, stories on communities that are suffering, because it's easy to do a 10-minute segment on whatever stupid thing or racist thing Trump said. It's not as easy to stay on something that has been going on for 10 years, but is still a disaster. And it's probably not as clicky or lucrative, but there's something to be said for just covering the right shit and doing the right thing, in my opinion.
Right. I very much appreciate what you're doing. Now, I wanted to ask you a question because I've been keeping up with some of your latest videos, and like I would see you doing interviews, and you would always bring up the question about Josh Shapiro about like, yeah, like he called pro-Palestinian people, compared them to the KKK, and now I forgot when the announcement was, but a few days ago, the DNC picked Tim Walz. So I'm wondering, what are your thoughts about him as the vice presidential pick, and what do you think about him as a person or as like a elected official?
I'd be a lot happier
Basically.
if Tim Walz was running for president than Kamala Harris. I'll tell you that. Do I think
Yeah.
Tim Walz is Bernie? No, I don't. Do I think he's done some fairly good things in Minnesota? I do. I think compared, you also have to look at it from like what are you comparing it to? Because our government across the board sucks. So the fact that like him doing free lunches is considered this like awesome revolutionary policy, it's a good policy, but it's kind of like, very low expectation. It's like low expectations considering nobody else is doing what should be. I mean, that should be an obvious thing. So I think he's done some good
It's
things.
revolutionary in the sense of America.
Right. I think he's done some good things. I think he's increased taxes on people that it should be increased on. The Republicans are saying, oh, people are leaving Minnesota because of that. They always say that, but that's not true. So if he was running, I wouldn't even call him progressive. I just think he is more blue collar, has some working class chops. Full disclosure, I've been on the road. I haven't looked at his entire record. I know there's some things that are problematic, but I do think he is a good balance to her. She is. I very, very rarely care about vice president because the bottom line is they're just ceremonial figures that are just there waiting their turn to be president. I care about Kamala, but I think she picked him less about I think she had a decent rapport with him. According to reports, people love this guy just as a person. He's very affable and fun to be around, and team player. From what it sounded like, Shapiro in his interviews with Harris seemed more ambitious and very focused on.
Yeah.
And no president wants somebody behind their back that they have to worry about. Are they going to put a political shank in me? But I
He's
think
very
I
focused
think.
on trying to be. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go
what
ahead.
do you think?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that also Shapiro is focused on being Obama light.
Yes, I agree.
With his like mannerisms, and it's just like the dude's trying to pretend to be like someone. And it's just that, I mean, out of everything, I mean, you can look at a lot of things he's done bad, but like when you pretend to be someone you're not, and you pretend to be basically the Democratic Party's golden boy, at that point, it's just, yeah, like you're basically trying to fool people into being someone you're not, and that's just not something I respect.
Right. I also think, I mean, on the record, I know he's a popular governor, but he's like big onto corporate tax cuts and all this other shit. So, I mean, is he the worst governor? No, but I think Walz was the best choice. I also think it's a good balance. I mean, Republicans can hit her on, that image of like, oh, she's a San Francisco limousine liberal. So to have kind of like this, like, guy with a camouflage hunting hat and, from the heartland, I think is a good balance. So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a complete 180 in my opinion from Shapiro, because like I was thinking, and I'm sure a lot of people were thinking in this circle, basically like, oh, there's no chance Tim Walz is going to be picked because he's too much of a good person, and they want to focus on someone who may be appealing to like the pro-Israel lobby. But Tim Walz, it's like, it's just like, I feel like with Democrats, they made the best possible choice, and it's kind of funny how Democrats actually made a good choice for once for vice president. On the flip side of that, when you look at the Republican Party, I'm from Texas, so there's a few Republican friends that I talked to, and they were actually telling me, like, what was it? The Virginia governor, forgot his name. It's drawing a blank right now.
Northam?
Yeah, the Northam, yeah, that guy. Like, he would have been a great vice president in the sense of, I mean, you've made a point about how picking people from swing states wouldn't really affect the outcome, but I think that, hold on, Virginia. I want to remember this. Yeah, Glenn Youngkin. Yeah, Glenn Youngkin. He would have been the best possible choice for Republicans because, yeah, the whole Project 2025 and everything, but Glenn Youngkin could be like a buffer to like be like, a sense of like normalcy to like try to make it, but I mean, Republicans, they think they can get away with taking the worst people, right, presenting the most message, the worst messages possible, and they just think that, oh, if we just make our message as worse as possible, maybe those people who, don't even come out to vote, who are openly racist, they'll finally come and vote for us.
Right.
Which is crazy. Yeah, but I also wanted to bring up, and I know that I don't want to keep a lot of time, but there's one thing, actually two things I just want to mention. One, you mentioned you wanted to be on a bunch of shows, and actually I'll say three things. One of them is a suggestion, and two of them are question, or no. Okay. So David Packman, right? I know you've been trying to email. My suggestion is, why don't you go on his Discord and find like an admin or moderator and contact them and like say, hey, can you reach out to Packman and do the book? Maybe.
Well, ironically, breaking news. Somebody just sent me a cell phone number, so I don't need to do that. But go on.
Oh, okay, awesome. Okay, then skip that. But a couple other people. Have you reached out to? It looks like 4 people. Democracy Now, Breakthrough News, Gray Zone, or Mediathon to promote the book?
I have reached out to Democracy Now 4 times. I sent them a book. They got it. Haven't heard back. So yeah, it's very strange. Trying to be diplomatic and not say anything that will get me in trouble, but very strange with Democracy Now on a lot of fronts, because there's been quite a few stories I've broken over the years that you would have thought was right up their alley, but for whatever reason didn't have me on. But they did tell me they got the book and they'll consider it. Amy Goodman actually went to Flint when this all happened in 2016, so respect her work, and it would be great to get on there. So I know they've been really doing great work on this genocide, and that's for the most part what they've been covering. So I hope that they could, for those of you that watch them, maybe you could, in whatever way, encourage them, could at least have me on for one segment. I also have reached out to Mehdi Hassan. I have not heard back. I also actually reached out to Mehdi Hassan and somebody from his team, because I was trying with the Dearborn interviews we did last week, which I thought was right up his new organization's alley. I was saying we could I could release them on Zateo. They'd have to pay me, but I'm not going to charge them up the wazoo. But just to get our content in front of his audience, they did not get back to me. I did not reach out to the Gray Zone. Who was the other one?
Breakthrough News.
No, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. I'll definitely reach out to them.
All right.
So, all right, man. Thanks a lot.
Yes. Wait. One more thing. So your live streams, whenever I play them and I play the replay, like it would go live like 5 or 10 seconds into your introduction. So like I'll play it and it would be like you're in the middle of talking. So I've wondered if you've seen that happen before. Like maybe wait 10 seconds. So that like, I know you get like a new software or something for your live streams, and I think that might be coming with it. So
Yeah,
just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Yeah, I'll tell Colin to look at that and see what's going on. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, no problem. Have a good day.
All right. Sorry, we do have a queue of callers waiting, but I got to go take care of my daughter. So we'll do this again this week. We'll do another call show so we can get people back. 5 o'clock Eastern, we're live. So if you wanted to call today but didn't get through, feel free to call another day. Welcome new member George signed up. So we got a couple new members through YouTube, another member through our website.
If you go to if you see on the bottom right there where it says chat.
Okay.
You can click on that, and then on the top you see a little star that says pinned, and if you click on that, that's where all the super chats and stuff are.
Pinned. Chat. Pinned. All right, super chats. Kevin became a member. Thank you, Kevin, for becoming a Status Coup member. Ratso became a member. Thank you so much, Ratso. Donald's been a member for 8 months. Your interview with Nina made me buy the book. Thank you to Nina then, but thank you. Spread the word too. If you've already bought the book, please spread the word. You don't need to be a progressive to want to care about Flint or this story. People care about corruption, whether you're on the left or right, libertarian, politically don't have a label. Spread the word. Tell your friends, tell your family, everyone you can about the book. Word of mouth does matter. And if you've already read it or you are reading it, please leave a review, whether it's on the Amazon site, Barnes & Noble site, bookshop.org. Please leave a review what you thought about it. Tony, $2. Looking forward to your live crystal ball interview. Me as well. Truth Bear, $5. Those women on that panel confirming how it has affected their health was so gut-wrenching. These people need to pay. I was horrified. When you hear the women talking about like their periods are now 2 weeks, 2-week periods, 9 or 10-year-old girls getting their period at 9 or 10, some women not getting periods for 4 months. That's what these chemicals are wreaking havoc. And I fear there's going to be a lot of reproductive issues with women because of this chemical contamination. Moral Compass, $10. I finished We the Poison today. Very good book, very sad story. I found Status Coup after the East Palestine derailment, and it feels like a really bad full circle to be over here a year later. I think that's a great way of putting it. And thank you for reading my book. Thank you for getting it. If you can leave a review, please do, whether it's on Amazon or Barnes & Noble's site. It is a very sad story, and I'm glad you thought it was a good book. I hope you also thought it was a very angry, infuriating story, because I was going for that too. Moral Compass, $5. We the Poison was extremely informative. I've talked to 2 of my local bookstores, Kalamazoo area, about carrying it. Thank you for your work. Thank you for spreading it to those bookstores. I'll have to. I was actually thinking of making this a franchise, so having We the Poison be the name of several books I do. So my next one would probably be East Palestine, and I might then have a next one in Kalamazoo, because I think it says it all. We the Poison. Then each one could be about a different disaster. Kevin, $2. Nothing breaks the duopoly with the EC in place. Das Bro Slice, member for 10 months. I agree that the fight is far from over. Also, Bernie or Waltz are no messiah, but having Waltz, who delivered on good policies as VP, would make me happy. Yeah, I said I'd be much happier if he was running for president. I would vote for him. If he was running for president, I'd vote for him. I don't think he's Bernie, but I think he's way better than Kamala Harris. BK signed up as a member. Thank you, BK. Moral Compass, $5. I just bought a second copy of your book on Amazon so I could review it on there. Now I could give away my second copy, spreading awareness about Flint. Thank you. Thank you for your support. I really, really appreciate it. That is so nice of you. Realist, $2. Great talking to you, Jordan. And apologize that I had to cut the calls short. I got to help out with my daughter before bed. But we will do another members call. Thank you for watching. Remember, starting Tuesday of next week, we are having a 3-day marathon DNC live stream. So John will be on the ground in Chicago. I'll be in studio. We're going to have Cornel West, Jill Stein, Marianne Williamson, Nina Turner, Ryan Grimm, Crystal Ball, Stephen Donziger, Winona LaDuke, Dr. Richard Wolf, Greg Pallas, Jasmine Banks, Alan Minsky, Jody Evans. So many names. And, of course, John on the ground. I don't think anyone's going to have the lineup we have. Lee Camp, Ron Placone, Graham Elwood. Please, please, please put it in your calendar for next week. And please, 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 if you're not yet a Status Coup member, sign up. And if you haven't ordered my book yet, please do. We the Poisoned, exposing the Flint water cover-up. There's me and Nina Turner at the Cleveland book event. Thank you to Nina. And